I would like to remind the Planning Commission to have their microphones turned on and positioned so the audience can hear. Sal, Mr. Lopez, may we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Robert Booth. Commissioner Dana Hill.
Here.
Don Worth, he has an excused absence this evening. Vice Chair Jacob Beamsderfer.
Here.
And Chair Cindy Lemke.
Present. Thank you. Commissioner Booth, can you do the invocation and flag salute, please?
Guys.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord God, we just come before you humbly tonight. I pray that you give us wisdom and insight. I pray that you'd help us to move this city forward in a way, Lord God, that makes it prosper and move forward in a direction that's good for its citizen, good for its governance, good for the state. Pray that you bless its people, bless this commission, and bless this evening in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you. Agenda item 4A is the approval of minutes for the meeting of February 21st, 2023. Does the commission have any comments or correction for the minutes of February 21st?
No.
Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting February 21st, 2023. I'll second.
That's approved 4-0. Public comment period. Agenda item number 5 is a public comment period for items not on the agenda. Is there any members of the public present that would like to comment on an item not on the agenda? Are there any members of the public joining via teleconference or Zoom that would like to comment?
Chair Lemke, I don't show anyone via Zoom commenting, and I did not receive any e-comments.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Continued items. Item number 6A, conditional use permit 22-001 and zone change 22-001 for Rally's Restaurant. Principal Planner Monique.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, Monique Alanis-Slater, Principal Planner. This item, the applicant has withdrawn the application due to new ownership, and it will require a new application to be reviewed by the city. The reasons for that was that the new owner wanted to explore other options with regards to access.
Thank you. Did we make a motion on the withdrawal? Okay. Okay. Does the commission have any questions for staff?
No.
Maybe just one. Is there anything that you think you could have done to save this project, Monique?
Well, we advise the applicant that we could take this forward and submit as proposed, and then come back with a modification to that approval. And we did suggest that because it would save time.
Yeah.
And yes.
But they didn't want to. Okay. Well, thank you for trying. I just wanted to clarify that. We'll open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public present or online that would like to comment on this item? Ms. Hernandez, was there any e-comments submitted or anyone online?
I don't show anyone online requesting to speak, and I did not receive any e-comments.
We'll close this public hearing. Do I hear a motion?
What are we making a motion for, to continue this, or is it basically to close it out? Basically. Okay, I'll make a motion to formally withdraw the application. I sadly second that.
That passes 4-0. Item number 6B, zone change 20-001 and map 20-002 for tentative tract map number 37558 on 800 North Gerard Street. Principal Planner Monique.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The proposed project before you this evening is a zone change and a tentative tract map for 800 North Gerard. The owner is Shazal Zhang. Applicant is Sycan Engineering. The subject property is located at the northwest corner of Menlo Avenue and Park Avenue on approximately 13 acres. The Planning Commission, within their authority, the Planning Commission is the responsible reviewer for recommendations of the zoning ordinance amendments and zoning map changes. This would be a recommendation to the City Council. Typically, a subdivision would be reviewed under the authority of the Planning Commission pursuant to Section 70-133 of the Hemet Municipal Code. With the zone change, this would be forwarded as a recommendation to the City Council. The subject property is located on approximately 13 acres that is bounded by Gerard Street to the west, Park Avenue to the east, and Menlo Avenue to the south, in the northeast portion of the city of Hemet. The project site is currently undeveloped and consists of a vacant parcel containing vegetation that is heavily disturbed by substantial amounts of vegetation and some dumping on the site, as well as off-highway vehicle use. Remnant concrete pads and asphalt road structures were found to be present throughout the project area. This provides the surrounding land uses for the development. The property is adjacent to the City of San Jacinto Park Hill. Surrounding land uses include single family to the north, single family to the south, single family and mobile home park to the west, and natural hillside vegetation to the east. The property has a general plan land use designation of low medium density residential of 5.1 to 8 dwelling units per acre. The property is currently zoned R2, low density multifamily. And the proposal is to rezone the property from R2 to R1, minimum lot size 6,000 square feet. The overall proposal includes the development of 51 residential lots. The lot sizes do have a range, but the average lot size is approximately 8,073 square feet. Access to the property will be served from both Menlo and Gerard Streets. The site has maintains a constraint. Currently, the Casa Loma Fault area bisects a portion of the property, which is one of the constraints in evaluating the design of the subdivision. When reviewing this development, the applicant was required to evaluate through a lot fit analysis how the building footprint would be positioned, ensuring that the lot configurations can accommodate a building footprint on the property, as well as identification of a no-build area, which is that Casa Loma Fault area that bisects the property. Some of the street improvements for this development will include improvements along Park Avenue, as well as Gerard Street and Menlo. On Gerard Street, that would be improved to its ultimate half section width as a 2-lane classified, unclassified road between the project's area north boundary and south boundary adjacent to Girard Street. The proposed project would provide reconstructed pavement and curb and gutter and sidewalk improvements for the east side of the Girard Street along the project area's frontage. And that area is highlighted in light blue on this map. The improvements on East Menlo Avenue would be east-west oriented roadway along the project area's southern boundary. And the project would improve East Menlo Avenue to its half street width and as a secondary roadway between the project's area's western boundary and Park Avenue, adjacent to East Menlo Avenue. The proposed project would also update the road's pavement, providing 2 westbound lanes, a bike lane, curb and gutter, and sidewalk improvements for the north side of East Menlo Avenue along the project's frontage. Also, Park Avenue would be improved to ultimate half section width between project areas north boundary and southern boundary adjacent to Park Avenue. And the proposed project would also update the road's pavement, provide southbound lanes and a bike lane, curb and gutter, and sidewalk improvements for the west side of Park Avenue along the project's frontage. Interior street improvements would be as identified here in the typical street section between these between the access points on the internal portion, and that is the area highlighted in the darker blue. The applicant was required to provide a minimum of approximately 11,000 square feet of open space. The proposed development will provide for approximately 21,500 square feet of open space, as well as retention basins on site. This would also be part of the Planning Commission's review when it comes back. If this project is approved, this would come back to the Planning Commission when the home builder is ready to build. Then the Planning Commission would be able to evaluate the amenities in the park open space design, landscaping, fencing, and site development, plotting of the homes. The drainage and on-site retention will capture historical flows. They will run as illustrated in this diagram from east to west to the site. This will be further reviewed by the engineering division in the final engineering civil review process. The project in review of rezones, there is a state law, SB 330. And this is the Housing Accountability Act, which became effective January 1st, 2020. And the bill restricts for a period of time actions by cities and counties that would reduce the potential for reduction in the production of housing. The bill enacts the Housing Crisis Act of 2019 and declares the housing supply crisis in the state of California to be in effect till January 1st of 2025. Pursuant to Government Code 66300, this does not apply to housing development that's located in very high fire hazard zones. This property is located in a very high hazard, fire hazard severity zone, has been reviewed by our fire department. Residential development is allowed in these type of zones as long as they comply with providing fire sprinklers as well as a fuel modification plan and further review by the fire department. However, pursuant to SB 330, this property is not impacted by SB 330 and is in compliance. Some of the findings that we had to make in evaluating this development is the findings that were made in the staff report is that the proposed change of zone is in conformance with the latest adopted general plan. And we did evaluate that. We evaluated the proposed density, minimum lot size allowances for the R16 development standards. We evaluated whether or not the site was suitable for the zone change, and looking at the surrounding area, this proposal would be more consistent than in a multifamily development project. And then also looking at whether or not it's compatible with adjacent established land use patterns of development in that area. And based off the analysis of what we found in the surrounding neighborhood, we did identify that it is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. Also, with regards to the tentative track map, the findings that are required is that it does comply with the city's ordinances, zoning standards. We also look at minimum street and facility requirements and design guidelines for infrastructure design. That it's consistent with the city's general plan, which is also a similar finding for the zone change. And that this design and improvements are physically suitable for the type of development that's being proposed on site. That the density is suitable for the site, as well as no impacts to fish and wildlife or their habitat on the property. Any potential for public health problems based off of perhaps something inconsistent for the development, and that it will not conflict with any access easements on the property. The project was reviewed in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act. A draft initial study was prepared. A mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring program was prepared for the document. The applicant, the design team prepared the initial study and associated technical studies. This document was also peer reviewed by a third-party consulting firm, entered into an agreement with the city to review that document, peer review. The document was circulated for a 30-day review period between December 2nd and January 3rd of December 2nd, 2022 to January 3rd of 2023 for a 30-day review period, as well as AB 52 30-day review period with the Native American Commission. And that also was a separate process that we went through for a 30-day review, which had a 30-day period that ended on November 21st, 2022. In the 30-day review period for the draft initial study, we did receive general correspondence from the Native American tribes, as well as members of the public. We did receive concerns identified by members of the public. There were no primary concerns identified from the Native American tribes, other than that they would like for us to make sure that any monitoring programs will be conducted in accordance with any culturally affiliated tribes for the city. Also, the responses to members of the public, we did receive Regina Martinez, Constance Howard Clark, and Dick Clark. They did provide letters of concern, and they did identify in writing. As part of that process, the responses to those comments were evaluated and considered to determine if there are any environmental impacts that would change the evaluation that was prepared in the initial study. And based on that, no additional changes were identified as being recommended in the preparation of the initial study document. Those responses are also incorporated into the environmental document as part of the record. The initial study analysis concluded that with monitoring and with mitigation, the project would not have a significant impact on the environment. Those types of mitigations include biological resource, pre-construction surveys of nesting bird surveys and bat surveys, as well as ensuring that we have a cultural and tribal cultural mitigation, such as monitoring and on-site inspection and management plan for our culturally affiliated tribes to ensure in the event there was any inadvertent discoveries that we would have someone on staff that would be part of that requirement, as well as ensuring that the development is consistent with the recommendations for the geotechnical investigation that was prepared in evaluating the constraints on the property, any paleontological monitoring, as well as paleo completion reports. This would all be required prior to any issuance of grading permits for the development. So based on that, the project has been determined not to have a significant impact on the environment with incorporation of the mitigation measures. On February 9th, the city gave public notice by advertising in the press enterprise and by mailing to the owners and tenants within 500 feet of the subject property. At the February 21st Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission voted to continue the item to March 7th to allow the applicant additional time to review the conditions of approval. With that, staff is respectfully requesting that the Planning Commission adopt Planning Commission resolution recommending approval to the City Council. Number one, the adoption of the mitigated negative declaration and monitoring program. And then two, the adoption of the amendment to the zoning map to change R2 low density multifamily to R1 and tentative tract map 37558 to subdivide the 13-acre parcel into 51 lots for single family residential. And then lastly, to direct staff to file a notice of determination with the county clerk. This concludes my presentation.
It's a whole lot.
That is a whole lot. Does the commission have questions for staff?
I do have questions.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
You can
Okay.
start, yeah.
All right, thank you. Hi, Monique. Can you go back to the plot map? I know that we are looking at approving the zoning change, but I just want to get my word in edgewise on something early here. Can you go back to the one that has the street? Yeah, that one there. So, well, first of all, these are single family homes, 1-story, 2-story, do you know?
When the home builder is, once they determine who the home builder is, they're going to come back to the commission with that development,
Okay,
as long as they comply with the R1 standards. They could be single story or 2-story.
okay, all right. So here's my my request for staff to consider. And you see Gerard Street there in Menlo, and there's supposed to be a street improvement there. Can the street improvement continue all the way to the corner? I guess that's the cemetery there. Isn't that the cemetery
No.
that's right there? Oh, it's not? Oh, one street in? Okay. Well, anyway, my question is, can the street improvement go all the way down Menlo to connect with Gerard? And is it something that if the developer isn't willing to do, can the city kind of kick in and take care of that? That's a very rough street right there in Menlo. It really needs some upgrading.
That's a great question. The applicant is responsible for improving the roadway improvements along that abut their property.
Right.
However, if this is something that commission wants us to look into, we can we can look into this with engineering division and evaluate what's on their CIP plan.
Yeah.
Or evaluate any roadway improvements that are planned for that.
Yeah.
And perhaps submit, have that discussion with engineering and our city engineer on on that type of improvement.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I think it'd be well worth it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Beanstalfer, I saw you writing.
Hi. Not too much to write, though. I do agree with Commissioner Hill in that aspect, because I know that they're gonna have to move dirt around, they're gonna have to survey the land, they're gonna have to do a lot of dirt trucks coming in and out of that place. And I'm not sure exactly what route the trucks are going to take, but those trucks weigh a lot and they cause damage to the roads, and those roads are already pretty bad shape. So I imagine those trucks will cause even more by the time they get done with the project. So something Commissioner Hill said, I agree as well. The other question is elevation wise to the adjacent property to the dirt lot, are they pretty much even in elevation? Not in the hill area, but down by
That little
Menlo
corner.
and Gerard area. Those ones.
Generally, when we did the slope analysis, it's less than 10% slope on the property, but there is a grade change from Park Avenue. It does slope to the west in a downward slope, yes.
But the actual existing homes at Menlo and Gerard, that corner right there, the existing homes, the field behind them where they want to build, that's fairly the same in
Relatively
elevation?
flat.
There's no, okay.
It's relatively flat condition.
All right. And is there any issues with, because they say it's a fire danger zone? I know we had a discussion about that with another residential area where it came to like fire insurance, where it became almost like mandatory to get the fire insurance. Is that going to be in the same contract with this area since it's a fire danger zone?
It is likely that that would be required but it would not be a condition imposed by this process. It may be, and I could refer that to the applicant to speak more about that, what that may be required through that, financing mechanism and sale of properties to residents.
I'll be more the
But it's-
applicant for this development or the builder when they come and give us a proposal.
We could refer that question to the applicant this evening and see how if they've anticipated that, which I imagine that they have anticipated that, given that this is going to be a requirement, and they would have to comply with that, with fire insurance requirements.
I think that's about it. I'm excited. That's a nice little area right there to build some homes. So, yeah. Otherwise, that's about it.
Commissioner Booth, did you have any questions? I noticed that there was a lot of comments and a lot of feedback, a lot of concern for traffic. And I do see the road improvements. My question is, all of the concerned citizens, especially about the flow of traffic and what was the potential of issues, did you get a response? Do they know about this, about what the proposed improvements are? And did they respond to that part?
Yeah, so there are a couple ways that we reached out to members of the public that provided feedback, because they did have an opportunity to look at the plans and what was proposed
Okay.
and the analysis involved. However, this evening, the applicant's team is also on the line. They may be able to speak more technically in terms of how that traffic impact analysis was evaluated, and maybe perhaps the concerns that were expressed by the public, where there may be considerations that could not be considered as part of that analysis.
Yeah, my other concern is that on Menlo, you have a stop sign at Menlo and Park, but there is not one at Oakland and Menlo. And it's a little concerning already. So with the addition of homes, I just want to make sure that we're prepared for the additional traffic. Is there something that we can look into, maybe adding, nobody wants to stop, but the thing is we have to be safe. So the safety of the additional traffic flow.
Yes, I do have the applicant here this evening that might be able to speak to that,
Okay,
as well as their team.
okay, that's fine. Yep, that'll be great.
I have one more question though. Park Hill, that street is Hibbett or San Jacinto? 'Cause I know that's the boundary line.
West side is San
So it's Hibbett
Jacinto.
Street.
Yeah, so Half Street would be.
Oh, the Half
city-
Street
yeah.
parcel.
East side is San Jacinto and
Yes,
west side is Hemet.
Half
That's
is.
gonna be fun. Is that why you're not sure if it's gonna be EMWD or Lake Hemet?
it will be Lake Hemet.
It will be Lake Hemet. Okay.
We did include that in the condition, just, in the event. the
Right.
MWE need to participate in the process, but
Okay.
Lake Hemet is the payer.
Okay, and then also there was in the new packet that you sent, you removed prior to final map approval.
Yes,
The-
thank you.
Can you explain that?
Yes, so that's condition number 88. We had originally reviewed that with engineering. There was a comment made by flood control. And it was a general comment on being able to address the existing flood master drainage on site property. In evaluating that, we explored how to address the current report that was prepared for hydrology on the site. The applicant's design team redesigned it to address that where that condition no longer applies.
And then obviously you removed the certificate of occupancy, number 49.
Yes, let me,
Actually, not obviously. I
43.
mean, why? I meant why.
49, yes. The applicant requested to remove that. It appears to be more of a commercially imposed condition.
Okay.
It might have transferred
That's
over
what
from
I
a prior.
assumed, but I wanted to make sure and
Yeah.
clarify. Okay. No further questions from commission?
Not for staff, no.
Okay, we'll open public hearing. Are there any members of the public present or online that would like to comment on this item?
Chair Lemke, I do have two requests to speak from Dick Clark and Connie Clark. And I also have John Kane present via Zoom with Urban Crossroads, who's available to answer any traffic issues.
Great, thank
Question.
you. Would you like to come up? If you could just tell us your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Dick Clark. I live at 1765 Terrace Drive. Terrace is next to Cajon. It's part of the Ramona track. So a lot of us have a little problem with the notice being 500 feet. Ramona track is affected completely with this, and we should have gotten notice too. But that's another thing. Luckily, somebody told us that this meeting was coming up. My biggest concern, well, as you pointed out, ma'am, that in tonight's staff report, there is a copy of the letters that we sent along with responses. And if you haven't gotten to that, mine starts on page 102 in the staff report. I have a lot of concerns. I'm going to, since I only got a few minutes here, I'm going to talk about the traffic end of it. I know the traffic end of it because I lived there. We experience the terrible traffic coming up and down those streets that are only what, 1.5 lanes. I am also a retired law enforcement officer that has a lot of experience commenting on traffic studies and stuff. And this whole corner of Menlo and Girard, thank you, sir, for bringing it up. Thank you. I don't understand why that improvement doesn't come all the way down to that intersection. If you have driven that lately, especially if you're headed southbound on Girard and you get to Menlo, if you're going to cross, you do it on a wing and a prayer. Because if you're looking left, eastbound to see the westbound traffic, you can't see it until you're halfway out because of the telephone poles and the other obstructions. And God knows why Menlo was ever built the way it was. It's wide enough for 4 lanes, but only has 2. I travel it enough. I'm sure just about every one of us that are local have traveled on it and seen somebody passing you on the right at 50 plus. It's the same thing that happens there. Probably one of the reasons why there was a fatal accident there within the last couple of years. Their neighbors in that area tell us about the wrecks on that intersection all the time. Luckily, we haven't, experienced the big injury ones. But that whole intersection needs a lot of work. The roadway needs a lot of work. I have no problem suggesting that be a 4-way stop. I mean, 60 miles per hour, I wouldn't doubt is usual for a lot of people going down Menlo. And to get through there, no. I have a problem with that there's no mention, and I see the responses. Well, we don't have to do this by law or stuff like that. For looking at Park and Menlo. Any of you have driven on that, especially between, let's pick the afternoon commute, 4 to 6. There can be 15 to 20 cars backed up each way there. Of course, it doesn't help that Yale, I think it's Yale, comes off also on that within about makes kind of a 3-way, 4-way combination intersection. It's terrible. Now, add, 431 vehicle trips per day. If even only half of those go through that intersection, we've got a major problem. When is that going to be found out? After the building's done, after the developer is long gone, they've gotten their checks, they're gone, and who is holding the bag? City of Hemet. And then you're going to have to negotiate with the city of San Jacinto. Traffic is a major problem. So I suggest, and I ask for you to either vote no or to send this back to staff and get the traffic part of it figured out first, because the liability for the city is great. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
I'm Constance Howard Clark. I have intimate knowledge of this property. My family had business on it. At that time, we did use pesticides that have now been banned in the state of California. I know this for a fact. So you may find that unbelievable, but this proposal with all these homes and all this moving this dirt around, you're going to find it.
Okay. What kind of pesticides and what date would you
Oh,
say?
this is in the 40s, the 50s, 60s, 70s. It was called Hemet Hosel. And we didn't know better back then.
Right.
And they banned it. I know for a fact. So anybody that, well, I mean, you're going to have to go back and have them test the soil, obviously.
Commissioner Hill, let her have her 3 minutes and then we'll discuss.
Okay. All right.
I strongly oppose this development because of the traffic and because of the cookie cutter way. Now I'm asking them to be good stewards of the land. If you pull up that proposal, you will see the roof lines are at their minimum. How come we can't ask more and have a nice quality subdivision, not one that we're jamming people in, making it a buck? They can make a buck. They can do quality stuff and not cookie cutter. I think they should do better. And we are affected. We are the Ramona tract. We are not like what they're asking to put in there. And I resent the fact that they think that they are. You and I know what those homes are going to end up like.
your traffic right there at Park and Menlo. You've got Yale 50, maybe 60 feet away. I travel that every day. It's miserable. Park Avenue has everybody from San Jacinto moving. Cajon has people cutting all the time, and Terrace has people cutting. And they go midway to get to San Jacinto because they don't want to get to that darn intersection. And I don't blame them. It's miserable. There are 15, 20 cars lined at 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's miserable. Why are you asking us to say that's okay when it's clearly not? And you will need to look at the quality and how it's going to impact your law enforcement and your ambulance and all of that.
Yeah.
These are not quality homes.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark. You had someone online?
I don't show any new members requesting to speak other than John Kane with Urban Crossroads to answer traffic issues, and David Atwater with E-Corp to answer any CEQA questions. And I did not receive any e-comments on this.
Oh, you said that the builder or somebody was on the line. That's what I misunderstood. Okay. Okay, who you have a question?
Can you remind me the gentleman's name for traffic?
John Kane with Urban Crossroads.
Yes, I'd love to ask John King a question.
Make sure you speak in your mic.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
If I may, also, the applicant representative, Jason Ackerman, is also here this evening as well, if you would have.
Would you like to address the commission? Okay, I can do that in public. Okay. Thank you.
Lemke, commissioners, thank you very much for considering our project this evening. And Monique, thank you very much for a very good, very thorough presentation. Monique has been a delight to work with. She's been an outstanding planner. She's been very thorough. She's been very good. We really appreciate. Thank you. We've appreciated working with her on this project. My name is Jason Ackerman. I represent the applicant in this matter. On the line, we do have David Atwater, our environmental consultant that can answer environmental questions. Also, John Kane with Urban Crossroads, who was our traffic consultant on this project. I believe Kenzie Rage from CCAND, our engineer, is also on the line. This was a long process, but a very thorough process. And we assembled, I think, a very good team of consultants to prepare an environmental analysis. Those environmental documents, the technical studies, and the analysis that was completed was reviewed by the city. The city retained Mr. Gifford, John Gifford, and Montrose Environmental as an independent third-party peer review team to review the technical studies and the environmental review to ensure that it complied both with the technical requirements and the legal requirements for legal sufficiency of these documents. And so these issues were thoroughly vetted. I would like to touch on the traffic issue first, if I may. And I may call on John Kane to speak on this in just a moment, but I want to remind you, and you probably don't need a reminder because you deal with these issues quite frequently, but there is a process for establishing the scope of a traffic study. It's not done in a vacuum. Typically, someone like Kenzie would put together a plot plan or a site plan for our project, and we would ask our traffic consultant to look at that plan and make some estimations in his or her professional judgment about traffic counts, and then put together a scope. And that scope is transmitted to the city's traffic engineer, who is another professional that exercises his or her judgment and either accepts or rejects the scope. Our scope was accepted, and Urban Crossroads went out and did their traffic counts, did their traffic impact analysis, and completed their technical study that was submitted to the city, that was reviewed. It was reviewed by Mr. Gifford and his peer review team, which was independent of our work. It was in the interest exclusively of the city. And ultimately, all of these professionals determined that the traffic analysis does comply with the technical requirements of the law, and any impacts, to the extent that there were any, were mitigated to a level less than significant. I also want to respond to Ms. Clark's comments concerning pesticides. The property was previously agricultural, applied to agricultural use before it was vacant for many, many years. We were required to hire a review team, a consultant, to do a phase 1 study of the property. And they did that thorough analysis, and that is included in the record of your decision. So those issues were addressed. It was determined that there were no significant impacts due to pesticides or contamination or any of those issues. Another comment that Ms. Clark raised related to roof lines and appearances and what have you, that unfortunately, that issue is not before you tonight. As Monique has described, that's a process, discussion for another day. So with that, I will complete my comments. John, if you would like to amplify the substantive comments concerning traffic impacts, I'd invite John Kane to do that. And of course, John Gifford from Montrose is here. He could speak to those issues as well. Thank you.
Commission, can you hear me? This is John Kane, Urban Crossroads.
Yes, Mr. Kane, we can hear you.
All right. If I'm able, I can also share my screen if that's helpful. But you know, I think that between the staff presentation and Jason's presentation, I believe it's been very clear, and but I did work directly on this traffic analysis. And if there are specific questions or something you want amplification regarding, I'll be glad to do so.
I have a question, and it might be a little on the ignorant side because this is not my expertise. But in your analysis and in your study, they were right about the flow of traffic one way versus the other. And my concern about the lack of stop sign at, I thought it was Oakland, they're referring to Yale. I'm sorry, I don't know which street it is, but did that raise a flag for you at all? Or were you just focused on the corner? And I am not being smart. I'm genuinely asking.
Oh,
were you
sure.
considering that corner, or did you notice the backup, or, you know, do you think the stop sign is part of your job to say we should have a stop sign at that other street?
You know, we're looking at the amount of traffic the project is generating and distributing out to the site. You know, in the morning and evening peak hours, it generates about 50 or actually less trips per hour in total, you know, and that's distributed about 50% to the access to Girard and about 50% to the access to Menlo. And so by the time you actually look at where the traffic's, or you know, the origins, the destinations of the traffic activity, the amount of traffic generated by the project at the intersection of Menlo and Park and Yale and Park is just extremely low. And so the city at the time did not require that we go out and do counts at that particular location or those to you know, adjacent intersections. Yes, they're near the project. You know, I understand the concern about existing activity there. They are unconventional. And, but, you know, frankly, the amount of traffic that this project would be adding during peak hours is about 15% of the traffic generated by the peak hour of the project, and it amounts to, oh gosh, you know, about one vehicle on average per every 2 or 3 minutes of time, which in my world, in the world of traffic flow, is just a very, very low volume. So we understood the city not requiring us to even look at that. The potential impact is just very low. So unfortunately, I can't speak to those existing conditions in terms of, congestion that may be there, or, the appropriateness of the traffic control, because the project itself, and that was our job here, was to look at the project traffic. Is it significantly impacting any intersections nearby? The city required us to look at 4 intersections. The park intersections were not included in that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Actually, I have a question for staff, so.
I have a question for John. On your traffic study report, is this when and what day, what time was this report done? Because I know, if I understood you right, you're saying it's only a 15% increase of traffic during peak hours. Is that what you're saying?
No, I was speaking to the percent of traffic generated by the project that you would use those intersections. And again, the traffic, the project is a very small project. It generates actually less than 50 peak hour trips. Well, much less than that at those Park Avenue intersections. And so in terms of the rules that I have to work under, in terms of impact analysis, the guidelines, the standards that the county uses, the city uses, these numbers are so low, they just become de minimis. I'm not saying the problems there are de minimis. I'm not speaking to existing conditions there. I'm just saying that the project traffic, the maximum amount of project traffic that could be used in that intersection at any time of the day, going to and from this project is an extremely low number.
But Vice Chairman, may I offer maybe a little amplification of that as well? The Riverside County traffic guidelines for traffic analysis, which the city of Hemet follows, typically exempts a project that has less than 100 lots from even preparing a traffic analysis. In this instance, the traffic engineer requested, despite the fact that we're only doing 51 lots, to do a traffic impact analysis. Now, what John is explaining is that he's looking at additional trips caused by the project development when built out. And what he has determined is that that's going to be less than 500 trips per day. That's for the entire day. Now, there was some mention of peak trips, peak hour trips. And what John's analysis shows that AM peak hour trips are only 39 trips. So during these high concentration periods that Mr. Clark and Ms. Clark are concerned about, this project is only adding 39 trips during that 2-hour period. Okay, that's in the AM. In the afternoon, it's a little bit higher. It's 51. But that is why I think John is saying that this is such a small project that, he didn't really sort of expand the scope any further than what was included in the analysis. And I think that the reason the overarching policy why we have these exempting out projects under 100 lots is because I think the transportation guidelines believe that cities, through their general plan circulation elements, are addressing these issues already, and those flows are being accounted for in that general plan update or that circulation element.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Thank you. So, commissioners, this is a minimal impact, and I know that, I hate to put this burden on you for waiting. However, this is an issue that I think the city needs to look at as far as the flow of traffic, possible additions of stop signs, and I hate to do that to you, and I'm really sorry. I don't normally try to extend things out, but I really think that this is an issue, and I'm not saying it's your issue or your applicant's issue, but I'm saying it might be our issue, and I think we need to address that. What are your thoughts, commissioners?
Are you,
Proposing to give staff time
think-
to,
I think the analysis from my perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong, the analysis says that this is, like, I just looked at the map, the whole like the subject matter area is so small compared to the already developed area, the amount of traffic and the amount of houses they're bringing in. It's like, I was, as he was talking about the study, I'm like looking at the map and I'm like, of course it's not gonna exacerbate the problem, but the problem's already exacerbated.
okay, so wait,
So-
that actually is a good point. So, do I ask you questions or Monique? So if we were to, pass this, because it's not the project per se, but are we allowed to say we would like the staff to look at that
That's
as
my
a
question.
separate project?
My
Or,
question.
because the thing is it's not the applicant. I totally 100% understand that. But what about the people moving there that are going to be moving to this issue? You know, so the thing is our job is to try
I
to,
mean, I've come close to having like 3 car wrecks at that intersection because somebody flew out in front of me. So I get it.
and we did get a lot of letters and,
My question is, are we the appropriate body to ask for there to be or recommend
Study.
there to be a stop sign or to put a study forth to solve this?
It's our third-party consultant that review technical studies, review the environmental documents, and has agreed with the conclusion of that traffic study. No minor impact. There are certain warrants that need to be met, correct, when it comes to proposing or asking for a stop sign.
so maybe we have
In
to go to
this
council
analysis-
separately. I
In
think
the
that's
analysis that was done, it didn't meet those warrants.
understood.
Hence, they didn't create.
Okay.
A stop.
Can I ask you one question real quick? So like I don't want to put any, like, I don't feel the need to ask for obligations. Like I think in line with Cindy here, but like, I do feel like we need, like, what is the direct course? This is a problem. We've acknowledged this is a problem. Do we take this to the council or can we recommend this to staff? What's the appropriate?
Do you know if we're having any upcoming road slurries coming down Menlo at all? Because I know they're doing road slurries throughout the city, so. And one of the improvements that we're asking for is, I'm okay with the project. I'm just not okay with the roads around it. And
Please speak in the microphone also when you're addressing. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
yeah, I plan on adding that. I was going to make a recommendation and add that in my recommendation. Okay.
about the road slurries,
Well, what I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
But my question to staff is, on the pesticide thing. I know that, Mr. Ackerman, the applicant, is happy with the CEQA thing. My question to staff is, are you in agreement with the CEQA report in that there's no concern with the pesticides being dumped on that soil?
So that would be a question for Monique, but in general, I would be supportive of the project because a phase one was prepared. And the purpose of the phase one document is to identify what toxins are on that site. And according to the applicant, there are no toxins that were found.
I have David Atwater with E Corp, and he's requesting to speak.
Okay, Mr. Atwater?
Hi, good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Regarding the pesticide comment, I would like to note that, yes, we did in fact prepare a phase one environmental site assessment prepared by a professional with Group Delta Consultants. And they did note, in fact, that there was agricultural activities on the site from approximately 1948 to about 1978 through review of aerial imagery. But the site had been vacant since that time. So that's a period of approximately 45 years of no activity and no pesticides. So I'd like to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. Does that make you feel better?
Yeah, I'm assuming I'm getting a thumbs up from staff.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
I want to thank you all for your patience too. I know this is maybe frustrating for you all, and I do appreciate your patience as we kind of get through this. We just want to make sure we're making the right decisions.
So basically, I think we need to make a motion to approve the project tonight, but
recommend to council.
recommend the council to look into traffic studies or possible,
No,
not traffic studies, but
maybe look, ask the council to have the public works director consider some sort of traffic calm.
some other safety approaches.
so noted. How, who wants to say what he just said?
A recommendation?
Yeah.
Jesus, I'll make a recommendation.
Chair Lemke,
I'm sorry.
the public meeting, the public.
Oh,
hearing's
yeah, still open. Yeah, sorry. And I wanted to make sure, Monique, do you want to address anything also?
If the commission could just provide clarification or clear direction on the improvements that are desired, the traffic calming, and what streets, and what type of improvements, and what are the existing conditions that are that the commission would like to alleviate.
Thank you.
So it's the dump off from Yale onto Park that cuts in, and then like 50 feet later, there's Menlo, and that's where the accidents has happened. That's where I've almost been hit because you can't hardly see. So I would recommend that there at minimum be a stop sign. And there's a stop sign over at Oakland just down the road on the right hand side, but I don't think there is one right there at Yale and Park. So that's what I would suggest. I would recommend that at minimum we put a stop sign. I think am I incorrect? Is there a stop sign? And I'm not.
There's not
seeing-
one on,
Okay.
but I don't know if it's Oakland or Yale.
It's Yale.
Okay.
It's Yale. Oakland's just a little bit further down.
Okay.
It dumps out on Park though too.
Was there anybody else online that wanted to speak?
I don't show anyone else online.
You guys ready to close the public
Is
hearing?
that the recommendation from this field?
I'm sorry, did you?
Correction, I do have somebody.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you state your name, please?
Yes, my name is Shaul Rosenreger. And let me just get to my notes a second. Members of the Planning Commission, Chair, thank you for taking the time to look at this project. My name is Shaul Rosenreger, and for the record, my telephone number is 951-692-0685. If anybody would like to follow up on this. So it sounds like you're going to approve another housing development in Hemet, which is good. This is a small infill development, and I think I want to encourage you to think about this differently. This kind of developments is what we've had in this valley for the last 70 years, but we live in different times now. The homes you're approving today will be where home buyers will live for the next 5 or 10 decades, this time will be very different from the past. We're now living in a fast warming world with a changing climate that is threatening to upset our familiar existence. Your children and grandchildren will experience a world of erratic weather patterns, water shortages, intense wildfires, and economic and social disruptions we cannot imagine. So, in your charge as planners of the future, I want to ask you to investigate the possible ramification of climate change to our town. Hemet has a history of suffering harder and longer during economic hard times. So I'm hoping that you will not just rubber stamp these plans, but find ways to make the community more resilient to the coming challenges. And here are a few ideas. We should be building more dense neighborhoods with access to services within walking distance, mixed use, pedestrian friendly. This will free land for more parks, open spaces, and opportunities for recreations locally. Not everyone needs or wants to care for 3,000 square feet of yard, and we no longer have the water for this anyways. Well-planned condominiums do not carry the negative stigma of apartments. I would like you to rethink the need to connect each and every building to a gas line, an idea that was force-fed on Hemet by the gas company in 2018. The future of California homes is electric if we are to reach the goals that we have set by the state for cutting CO2 emissions. Other cities like Riverside have done it, and home buyers can use the savings to pay for modern electric appliances that
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your time is up.
Thank you very much for listening.
Chair,
Yes,
if I may.
yes.
Commissioner Booth, you mentioned that you wanted to make a recommendation that they put a stop sign at the corner of Yale and Park. I'm a little hard pressed, and I don't know what to say about that, because there was a traffic study that was done, and it didn't meet the warrants to have a stop sign in any of the nearby intersections. So I'm not quite sure how that recommendation would follow. Does that make sense? If the traffic study alone indicated that there wouldn't be any need for any stop sign.
And I appreciate that. With all due respect to all of the studies and everything that has been looked at and reviewed, I've been stuck on Park and I've been on Menlo, and sometimes it's really scary. And the thing is so all we want to do is bring it to council's attention, and maybe they can tell whoever what to do. But it is a concern for all of us, and we want to bring it to council's attention. So we're not asking them to do anything. I think we need to bring it to their attention and let them decide what to do.
Yeah. Are we closing the public hearing?
We're open still.
We're open.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, I think that I wouldn't want to tie that to this though. Right. If you know what I'm saying.
Correct. Like additionally, like separately, maybe. Yeah.
I would, and like Cindy said, I'm not trying to be flagrant or annoying. I understand the intentionality, the study, the money, and the experts that go into these studies, and they know what they're doing. I've just had multiple instances at that place not being able, because of visibility, lack of visibility, because of how the bend happens, where there's a bend right here and Menlo's right here, and your outlet right here. So you have to like almost be in the lane to be able to make sure if you can get it. And maybe you're correct. Maybe the stop sign's not it, and maybe it's a straightening of the road because there's a lack of visibility, and that lack of visibility is caused me multiple times to be in a dangerous situation with kids in the car. and all
Well,
that
here,
kind of stuff.
I will challenge the commission that the council meets on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. Maybe you all should meet me at the next meeting and we can speak at the first 2 minutes on a non-item agenda
I'd be willing
to
to do
bring
that.
up our concerns. That way this can be separate, the other thing can be separate, and we still raise our concerns. How does everybody feel about that?
So great.
Does that feel
Yes.
okay?
Mr. Kane, did you want to follow up with a comment?
Oh, again, is my voice audible here at this point?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just wanted to mention that, the fact that the traffic study, did not conduct counts and analysis at the park intersections that you're concerned about, certainly does not indicate, that if we had done so, that we wouldn't have had specific recommendations in regards to traffic control. So I just wanted to make that clarification that, listening to the commission's concerns, and it certainly would not be a correct interpretive step to articulate that this traffic study did not recommend control there, therefore it's not needed.
No,
Yeah.
we
We
definitely understand
understand
that.
that,
We,
yeah.
we definitely understand that.
Okay, all right.
We're just voicing our concern because we live here and use the streets. and-
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, yes.
But thank you. Thank you.
Drive these
very
roads
much.
every day and I intentionally avoid that area. I go out of my way to go to the other side because that's just a mess right there. And it's been that way for years. It's not anything new, but I completely agree with everybody. That's is something that as we build, as we get bigger, as we populate more, that intersection is dangerous. It's a dangerous little three-way intersection right there. And whether it's a traffic light, which is expensive, we know that, but stop signs or whatever it may be is something the council can look into with this project coming in. I agree.
Thank you. Was there anyone else online that wanted to speak?
No, I don't show anyone else online.
Are you ready to? Nope, not yet.
No, I was just say what's the motion? How do
Just
we?
the regular motion, just the regular.
And we still have to close the hearing.
Oh, but before you do that,
Okay, sorry.
I'm going to close the public hearing.
Get ahead of ourselves.
Closed public hearing. Now, commissioners, do I hear a motion?
Yes. I will make a motion to adopt the planning commission resolution recommending approval to the city council, adopt a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring report program for zone change 20-001 and map 20-002 tentative track map number 37558. And 2, adopt planning commission resolution amending the zoning map of the city of Hemet from R2 to R1 for property located at the northwest corner of Girard Street and Park Avenue and tentative track map 37558 to subdivide an approximately 13-acre parcel to 51 lots for the future construction of a single-family residences. And 3, direct staff to file a notice of determination with the county clerk. And I'd like to say 4, to include staff researching finishing street improvement to Menlo and Girard.
Mouthful. I second, sorry.
And that passes 4-0. Thank you. Before I go to the next item, I really want to thank you for your patience. Those of you that are online, all of you that are here, our commissioners and staff, I thank you for your patience. I know that was a little went sideways for a second, but with good intentions.
Thank you, guys.
All right, number 9A, city attorney reports.
Nothing to report.
Item 9B, community development reports.
Okay, so we actually had a council meeting.
Closer.
This past Tuesday, and just a couple of items that that were approved by the council. The skate park funding was approved. So that's finally a go.
Really?
After years of negotiation and years of wanting that. We also passed the first reading of the non-conforming and deemed approved ordinance. The council did, and it's scheduled for a second reading on March 28th. And I don't know if you're following this one too, but the Hemet Bikeway project was also approved.
Excellent.
They rescinded the county project too, did they not?
They rescinded their letter of support to the county project, yes. Also, let me talk about some future items here. You'll be hearing the tentative track map 38309 for Ramona Creek coming at a future planning commission hearing. Also, SDR 21-021 JD Fields is a warehouse project, approximately 25,000 square feet that will is also coming down the pipeline for future agenda items. And these safety element update and the environmental justice update. The draft of the safety element is currently with CAL FIRE and will be soon sent to the Department of Forestry. In terms of the environmental justice element, we're still coordinating with the consultant and creating some draft for that as well.
Thank you. Item 9D, planning commissioner reports.
How do I? Okay, all right. Okay, so we have Commissioner Robert Booth. Do you have anything this evening?
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Dana Hill?
Oh,
Nothing.
you want to go? Apologies. Am I supposed to make the recommendation right now?
No.
No, we're gonna do that at council. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Here, sorry, guys.
I'm good. Nothing to report.
Okay. But Vice Chair?
Well, welcome Salvador Lopez to
Yes.
Thank
the
you
city
very
of
much.
Hemet, and we look forward to working with you.
Yes.
Council report.
Well, I do have a report. I have a resident who called me and I mentioned that I would put this out for staff. She would really like a Golden Corral or to bring Hometown Buffet back. So I'm just putting it out there because I said I would. And she's pretty excited, and Golden Corral might be kind of fun in the area. We have a lot of families, you know. So anyway, I promised and I delivered.
Okay, but
Golden Corral and Hometown Buffet?
Correct.
Okay.
that's after Miguel's Jr.
Yep, right. That was several in a row. Correct. And you all have the new chat magazine. The chamber has a first fundraiser since COVID, March 24th. We need your support. So whatever you can do to support us and or attend would be wonderfully appreciated. And that is all I have to.
March
Wow,
24th.
did we make it? And it's still not even our. If there is nothing more, we will adjourn this meeting until March 21st, 2023 at 6 p.m.
So next Tuesday, Cindy?